really awesome guest. She has been walking around the course and studying the course for 40 years. And we're really delighted and happy to welcome Myron Jones. But first, we're going to pray in with a moment of brief silence to just welcome in the sacred space, welcome everyone into this sacred space, and just recollect ourselves to focus within. We just give thanks for life, for God, and we surrender this life and to God. My prayer today is from chapter 31, The New Beginning. But think about the kind of day you want and tell yourself there is a way in which this very day can happen just like that. Then try again to have the day you want. The outlook starts with this. Today, I make no decisions by myself. Holy Spirit, help us all to make no decisions by ourselves. And if we make no decisions by ourselves, this is the day that will be given us. Holy Spirit, help us to turn over our day to you and understand that we make no decisions by ourselves and that this is the day that will be given us. And if we get to a place where we decide that we don't like how we feel, we acknowledge it. And we say, we hope we have been wrong. And we ask you, we want another way to look at this. Perhaps there is another way to look at this. What can we lose by asking? Holy Spirit, will you show us another way to look at this day, at this time together? And we just ask that you will bless this time together. Bless what we think, what we say, and what we hear. And together we say, and so it is.
Amen. Well, that was wonderful, Mary. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Joni.
And now I'd like to tell you a little bit about Reverend Myron. Reverend Myron is a Pathways of Light minister. She has been a presenter at 4 international ACIM conferences and many other venues. Sharing A Course in Miracles has been her passion for more than 40 years. Reverend Jones is the author of Hey, Holy Spirit, It's Me Again, a dialogue with the Holy Spirit on lessons 1 through 90. It is available in print from Pathways of Light and is also an ebook on Amazon. She enjoys facilitating Pathways of Life courses based on A Course of Miracle. Reverend Myron shares openly and honestly her awakening process and invites you to share your experience with her. And we can visit her. She has a website, which is aptly called forgivenessisthewayhome.org. And her email is revmyron, revmyron @hotmail. You can also find her on Facebook. And with that, I'd like to welcome Myron and pass it to you.
Well, wow. Wow, that sounds so great. Forgivenessisthewayhome.org. What a great website. We welcome you, Reverend Myron, and we want to get right into our first question, and that is, over the years, you have undoubtedly been with students in what seems to them at the moment a real crisis. And no doubt you have been in tough situations yourself. What are your go-to practical passages from the Course that bring a shift in the mind to come to a place of peace and acceptance?
Well, you know, probably the most important thing I think that I did was at some point I decided that Jesus was right when he said that we needed a single goal. And so I chose my goal to be the peace of God. And so the peace of God is everything I want. And sometimes that's all it takes. It's like I just ask myself, this thought that I'm having now, these feelings I'm having now, this discussion maybe that I'm having with someone, is this bringing me peace? And if it's not, well, then I'm just not interested in it. It's not relevant to me because it's not bringing me peace. So that has been very important to me, and everything passes through that filter. If I want it, if it's not making me happy, it's not bringing me joy and peace of mind, well then what, I have no use for it because it's not meeting the one goal that I have. Another thing that has been really helpful, and it's interesting that you started the prayer that way, is rules for decision. That I don't do the rules for decision every day anymore, but I did for a very long time. In fact, when I first discovered rules for decision, and I'd read it a long time ago, and I know I did because I underlined, but it didn't mean anything to me at that time. And then later I went back to it and started practicing it. And I was so excited by the results from doing rules for decision, from following everything he said to do there, that when I did a talk, a presentation, I think it was in Las Vegas at one of the conferences, and I did it on rules for decision, and I was just on fire with it, It was exciting. I had practiced it, seeing that it worked, and just couldn't wait to tell people about it. So it was one of my favorite presentations from my own point of view. I had the most fun with it. So that one also is really helpful to me. Other than, excuse me, other than that, it's like sometimes it's whatever lesson just happens to pop into my head, whenever I need it. I know that I'm never a victim of the world I see. Has been a mantra for me for a very, very long time, because I did, not too far into the Course, I began to realize that I came here to undo that belief in victimhood. And I knew I did because I experienced myself as a victim so much. So clearly that was what I came here to undo. And so that idea, I can't be a victim. So what's going on here? What do I need to release? Because definitely the idea that I'm a victim to anything or anyone is an error on my part. And so my mind needs to be healed. I don't know. I can't think of anything else right off the top of my head, but something might come later.
Ding, ding, ding. Yes, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Those are some great ones. I just want to make mention that what I was reading in the prayer is from chapter 30. It's called The New Beginning. It's on page 625 of the text. And what Myron was speaking about were the rules for decision that I was then going through in the prayer. Thank you for that. I've used that as a daily practice to refer to first thing in the morning too. So that is awesome that you use that as a talk in your ACIM conferences. Wow.
Yeah, I have 2 A Course in Miracles groups that I do by phone. And one of them, they're in different places, but one of them I'm doing is working on that chapter. That's where we are. We're up to chapter 30. And so we're doing that. We just started it last week, and everyone is enjoying it very much. I record it, and then sometimes I can see this time several people went back and listened to it again. So and we've only just started it because we take our time going through the course.
Well, I would be interested in that because I get hooked up with step 3 on page 626 where it says, I have no question. I forgot what to decide. It gets a little mired for me. I kind of skip over that and just go to the next one. But that would be really interesting to for me to listen to. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Joni?
Thanks. Okay, Rev. What was little Myron like when she was little, or what was your life like before you met the course?
Oh, it was a mess. You hardly ever find anybody started doing a course because their life was perfect.
Yeah.
This is work. This is a lot, But I was raised Catholic, and with all the guilt that comes with that. And so I seriously needed a Course in Miracles. When I divorced the first time, then I lost my standing in the church. I didn't get to do catechism anymore. I used to teach catechism. I was all into Catholicism. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it gave me an opening, to just open my mind and to look at things that could be different, than what I'd grown up with. And that was, what led me to eventually get to A Course in Miracles.
Thanks, Mary. You're on mute.
I was just answering someone in the chat that asked if we were here all the time, and I'm on my phone, so I was just saying, yes, we are here every Wednesday at 8:30 Pacific time, 10:30 Central time, and what time is it there for you? 11:30 Eastern Board time. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, that I guess sometimes I forget that when people do come to the course, they are kind of they're, some people might say, a hot mess, or just a real call for love, real tender, hurting, and they need some answers, and they need some peace. They need another way to get to that peace. So thank you for sharing that. So in regard to what is your life like now with the course? For example, are you reading it every day? And if so, what passages are you reading every day? And are you so that's the first question, or second question. What is your life like now? What are you reading every day in your practice? And then 3, are you continuing the exercises in the lessons?
Okay, so every day I start my day with a lesson and I journal, and I've been doing that for years. I don't know how long I've been doing it, at least since 2000, maybe 2000. And I keep my journals and I update them every year, and I go through that, and I have a Facebook group, which is a study of the daily lessons. And I post in there, and I post on my website the lesson, whatever it is I journaled, and I have and some other places as well. And so that's where I begin. And I begin that by just saying, okay, so Jesus, will you give me some clarification on this lesson? And I don't go into it as if I know exactly what it means, because that way my mind can be open and I can get something new. And so it's changed, over the years. And I love doing that. And I can't imagine starting my day without A Course in Miracles. I mean, I've been doing that for so long. And it's like an anchor, that keeps me firmly in my right mind by starting my day that way. So I do that. And I also have students that I work with fellow students. I do courses with people. I have a few people that I do some spiritual counseling, but mostly I like to do the courses. And so I do that. And I do that pretty much for at least a portion of every day, 7 days a week. I love doing it. And yeah, that's the one that Joni and I are doing together now. And I do it like one-on-one and sometimes in groups, but it keeps my day going. So all day long, I'm talking about A Course in Miracles. I'm very lucky, you know, because what you teach, you learn, what you give, you receive. And so that's just been a real blessing to my life. I also, as far as what I read in the course, some time ago, I think it was maybe 2012 or so. Can't remember for sure. I received guidance. It was just a thought in my mind that was too strong for me to ignore, that I needed to stop reading other people, following other people, reading other books, go back and start over in the course. And so that's what I did. I started with the Manual for Teachers because it's small. And what I would do is I'd take one paragraph and I would write about it. And I would just say, you know, Holy Spirit, give me clarity here. Help me to understand what it is you want me to know. And then I would write about it, and then I would share it because I share everything. I'm pretty much an open book myself. And the way that I share is I write what I think it means, and then I write how I use it in my life or what it means to me in my life. So I've got a lot of stories there. And then after I finished that one, and I'd already been doing the lessons. And so there wasn't anything else left to do except the text. And I put it off for a year. And then finally, because I kept getting, do this, I started doing the text. And I have not finished it. And all those, because I do one paragraph at a time, it takes forever. And now my schedule is very full, and so I don't have as much time to dedicate to that, but I still go back to it. Oh, and the Song of Prayer, love the Song of Prayer. So just all of that keeps me very busy, very grounded in the course. Was there another question here?
I think you answered. Well, what is your life like now? I mean, you said that it was just a mess beforehand. What is your life like now?
I'm very peaceful and I'm very happy. In 2019, I experienced a significant shift. And when I did a lot of the stuff that I'd been holding on to, I mean, I'd gotten rid of a lot of it simply by doing the practices that, of course, gives us to do. But when that shift occurred, a lot of stuff that was left over just kind of fell away. So now, typically, for me, I stay very peaceful and very and happy almost all the time. And when something does come up, it comes up briefly, and I'm able to release it pretty quickly. So I don't have that. Like when I was in the midst of the practice, it would be like, okay, there's this thought in my mind. I see it again. Dang it. You know, is this ever going to go away? How many times do I have to give this over? You know, that kind of a thing. And maybe I would get into a grievance and stay in it for, at first it was like I could stay in a grievance for years, you know, but then eventually it was like months, and then it was weeks, and then it was days, and then it got down to hours. And so now it's like, it's almost automatic. I have no interest in grievances. Not that they never show up. The ego mind doesn't shut up just because I don't want to hear it. You know, it continues, but the less interest I pay to that ego chatter, the less it shows up. So it's like my mind is quieter than it used to be, which is very helpful for peace of mind. And the some of the things, some of the grievances, some of the fears, some of those doubts that used to be there all the time that were like torture, they don't show up at all. But then there will be some things which are still Still haven't been healed in my mind completely. And those thoughts show up. But now it's really a lot simpler. It's easier now to let it go, because I am completely convinced, completely convicted in this decision to awaken and to stay awake and to go as deeply into that as I can. I was a little bit surprised because this was in 2019 during the summer. I think that's correct. And things had just seemed to change for me. And I couldn't really, it was hard for me. I couldn't really put my finger on it and exactly explain, what was going on. I still had, thoughts in my mind that would come in, and I thought, okay, well then nothing's really happened because I'm still having these ego thoughts. But I suspected something was going on because I was so much happier and I wasn't having nearly the problems of the ego tortures, that used to happen all the time. That wasn't happening. And so I had gone to a workshop with Regina Dawn Akers, and she and I shared a room because we've been friends for a long, long time. And I was telling her about my trip, and it was like the worst flight you can imagine. If anything could have gone wrong, it went wrong. It was just a mess. And I wound up in having to spend the night in the airport, just sitting there, in a chair in the airport. And so I was telling her about everything. It was just one crazy thing after another. And I was telling her about it, and I was laughing, and I said, well, I've always heard people say that they had to spend the night in the airport. And I said, I got to do that. It was just like everything changed as to my attitude about things. Everything became interesting and fun, and nothing was bothering me. And I knew something had to have happened that made that, but it was just such a gradual, natural movement into it. And then she said, you've just reached, what did she call that? I can't think. She didn't say awakening. I forget what it's called. Anyway, she said, you've reached this point. And I didn't know what she was talking about. And then later during her workshop, she talked about Jeffrey Martin, who wrote a book about people who have awakened, and that's what he called it. Mine went blank. Maybe it'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, so in his book, he has this, like, he did a study of people who have awakened, and he put it on online. He says it's like he calls them locations. In location 1, and in location 1, he talks about how it feels different. But he also says that that the person who's on this location, at this location, they're still having to heal things in the mind. And I went, oh, okay. Well, then, maybe I have reached that, because I read everything he wrote about it. And I said, oh, that's how I feel. So, and then he goes on this location 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, all the way up to 7. And he talks about how it changes for you. And what happens is that it just gets deeper. You just get deeper. It's really an amazing thing. And so if I were to put myself on that line, a spectrum is what I call it, and then I'm like at 1, 2, 3. I'm about 3 now. And at 3, you stay pretty much happy and pretty much at peace most of the time. You don't have a lot of the story of Myron. So much of our life is taken up with establishing your own personality, your own story, who you are in your mind, and trying to express that into the world, and then defending it. It's like when you look in the mirror and you think, eeks, I got to get my roots covered, and that's defending this image that you have of yourself. That's that little self, that ego self that we all build so carefully. And so that's one of the things that's kind of fallen away is my interest. As you can tell, look how gray. It's like I quit caring about a lot of things that have to do with being Myron. And so that kind of falls away too. And I don't know, there were some other things, but one of the main things that happens at that point is you just get this driving desire, this real need to share with other people and to help them to reach that place. And I notice that, and I don't do it on purpose and I don't ask for it, but it's there. And so this is why I do what I do. It's because that's what I'm supposed to do at this point.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm sitting here doing the math, and you said that you've been studying the course for 40 years, and you had this experience basically 3 years ago, 2019.
Was that 3 years already? Yeah.
2021, 2 years ago. I'm sorry.
2 years ago. Okay.
2 years ago this summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay. So wow. So we just need to have that patience, just knowing that we stick with it. We get there. We get there in little enlightenments, and then something that is more sustained, like what you're talking about. But it definitely sounds like it took a little time.
Oh yeah, and I don't think it has to take that long. When I first started studying the course, that was back in 81. We didn't have groups. I mean, when I first found the course, I had a group, I moved, and I couldn't find anybody else. And so I studied by myself, and there weren't a lot of books. I didn't even know Kenneth Wapnick existed. There was no internet. So I was very isolated in my study, and that makes it slower. And then the fact we have to remember that there is one mind. There is only one mind, and whatever we put into the mind affects our thoughts, our beliefs. Whatever we put into the mind is going to affect the rest of the mind. And so now there's a lot of truth being put into the mind, and this is making it easier for everyone to move forward. So there's no reason why it needs to take that long, but it is not an overnight thing. I mean, I guess it could be. Jesus says it's not a matter of time, it's a matter of willingness, but I don't know anyone who's like just automatically. There are stories, there are people that happened to, but it's very, very, very rare. Most of us we actually need that slow process. We need time to look at all those thoughts and to not have it when I first started, I couldn't look at the idea that guilt wasn't real. I was too Catholic still for that. There was no way that I could have believed that and accepted it. Forgiveness. I tell you, I must have worked on I kept reminding myself of the idea. What is forgiveness? Like every time we get to reading about it in the course, I have to go get one of the books, and look it up. Okay, what does he mean by forgiveness? Because that idea of forgiveness was so stuck in my mind. And there were many things that I went through as I was learning, as I was practicing the course, that I couldn't just drop. I tried, but I couldn't. And I needed time for that. And so all these experiences in my life, the things which I hated when it was happening, but those challenges, those problems were what were bringing me, they were my gifts. That's what was bringing me the opportunity to do some more work on this particular problem until finally I reached the point where I realized, hey, wait a minute, there aren't a bunch of different problems. There's just one problem. It's just taking all these different forms, and form is nothing. So I would look at, I had a problem with I've been married and divorced 3 times. So, it's a lot of relationship problems that I went through. And I started with the second marriage. I was in unity by this time. So I was getting a little bit of help there. But then by the third marriage, I had been studying A Course in Miracles. In fact, I started studying it before we got married, right before we got married. So I had like 16 years of practice with relationship problems, you know, so I personally could not just drop everything. I needed that time. Someone else, and I think honestly that the fact, you know, you think about it this way, whenever we have thoughts, these thoughts go out into the consciousness. You can think of that as like throwing a pebble into the water and you see the ripples, you know, that the pebble creates. Well, that's what's happening. We put a thought out into the consciousness and it just ripples through the consciousness. And everyone who is ready to accept that thought, they're uplifted a bit. They're given something that helps them. Or if they, and on the other hand, if it's a thought of anger, grievances, fear, guilt, if a person is still believing in that, then that also affects them. So we have to be so careful about our thoughts. If I've done one thing in this study, it has been to recognize it's all about thoughts and it's all about me. It's never anyone else's fault. It's no one else is ever responsible for anything that happens to me. Nothing in the world is responsible for my experience of the world. It's always me and it's always my thoughts. And so I go into my mind. If I'm not happy, I go immediately into my mind. What was I thinking? What brought this feeling on? And then I let the Spirit heal that in my mind. I either ask him, I say, okay, Holy Spirit, let's look at this together. And you tell me, what is it that I need to be looking at? You help me to see what it is in my mind that needs my attention and needs healing. And then whenever I feel like I've looked at it with him, and then when I say look at it, I mean like feel it, let the emotions come up. It has to be a true looking. It can't just be an intellectual concept. You know, I have to feel it with him. And then I say, either heal my mind, correct my thoughts, or show me another way to see. And show me another way to see is like saying, give me vision, give me Christ's vision so I can see this correctly. You know, so I do something like that. And that is my one single practice. It never varies. And that's the one that I have used more than any other. Other than putting everything through the filter of my one goal, that's the strongest practice I've had. I think I've gotten way off the subject, huh?
No, it's perfect. But can I mirror that back to you? Joni and I are engaged in a process of when we speak to one another, we are mirroring back what the other person just said in an effort to practice our hearing and then to really make the other person, help the other person feel like I'm really here with you. I'm listening fully and I'm getting what you're saying. This is so important, Myron. I'm just, I'm blown away here and this is so good. We have another teacher, you probably heard of him, named Dov Fishman. And he says, on my tombstone will be, I was always talking about myself. Is that what it is, Joni or Lynn?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's the gist of it. I was always talking to myself, or I was always talking about myself. But I think here you take it to another level. I was always thinking about myself. So let me see if I can mirror this back to you in a nutshell. That on a regular basis, you're always thinking, you're always, if you get hung up and you're not in peace, you go back with yourself. What was I just thinking? Knowing that everything stems from our thoughts. In fact, your comment was, this course is really about thoughts. And I go back thinking, what was I just thinking? What was the stone that I just threw out there, the pebble? And then if I need a little help, I can ask the Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, can you help me to see what was I just thinking? And then can you help me to see this in a different way so that I'm thinking about it in a different way, remembering that I'm always just thinking about myself, whether it's about a person or an event seemingly outside of myself. And that on a regular basis, by being aware of your thoughts, observing your thoughts, observing how you're feeling, you help yourself to get back to peace. Did I miss anything there?
No, not at all. Jesus says it very clearly. He says there are 3 parts to healing. And the first 2 parts are up to us. We have to be aware of our thoughts and give them to the Holy Spirit. And we have to accept his healing. That's all that we do, because the Holy Spirit does healing. We do not heal ourselves.
So those were be aware.
Be aware of your thoughts.
Be aware of your thoughts.
I'm sorry.
Be aware of our feelings about it.
Yeah, well,
I got stuck on the second one.
Okay, really, he's putting it in. There's like many steps within that, but what he was saying was, be aware of your thoughts and give them to the Holy Spirit. That would be your first step. Being aware of them and giving them to the Holy Spirit. In other words, looking at them with the Holy Spirit. And then your second part is to accept the Holy Spirit's healing.
Okay.
And that's the only thing that we do. The healing itself comes from the Holy Spirit. He tells us more than once in the course, you cannot heal yourself. You can't heal yourself because it's like we use the power of creation through our belief. And so when we believe something, it's true for us. He tells us that as well. He says, if what you believe is true for you, it may not be truth, but it's true for you. So when you have a belief, you have made it true for you. So you can't undo it yourself because it's true for you, you see. Mm-hmm. But if you can want it to be undone, and you look at it with the Holy Spirit, and he will undo that for you, and then you accept his healing. And that's all that's done, because he comes from outside your thought system and can do that. That's the miracle. That's what a miracle is. It heals the way you think. And because everything, the actual images that we think of as reality, the world all around you, your body, everything, everything is a belief in your mind. And that's all that it is. Because you believe it, it feels very real to you and you think it is real. That's what we're waking up from. That this is reality. You see, so we need the Holy Spirit to heal our mind. So if it's a belief, it's a thought, right? Same thing, belief and thought, same thing. And so the Holy Spirit heals that belief, and then suddenly everything is different. It's not like the world goes away, but that whatever happens in the world feels very different. Like when we just had 2 hurricanes here that went back to back, 2 hurricanes. And one of them was really, really strong. Probably it's stronger than Katrina and the Rita were. So it did a tremendous amount of damage. And there's many ways I could have experienced that. I had to evacuate. I had to go find some place to stay. I had to be gone from my home for a month. I had to come back and look at all the damage and try to figure out what to do about it and work with the insurance companies. And it was just, it could have been a nightmare, but it wasn't. It wasn't, because now I'm just seeing things differently. And that's the miracle. The miracle is that my mind was healed. And so when I looked at this, all I saw was, okay, what next, Holy Spirit? What do you want me to do next? And because I did that, everything just went very smoothly for me. And I haven't had a lot of the problems that other people around me are having, because my mind was very clear. Having the hurricane was not a disaster. My house being damaged was not a disaster. That's not the way I saw it. I just saw it as, okay, well, this is what happened. What can I do with this? How can I use this? Holy Spirit, how can I use this? And everything becomes, how can I use this to help me to wake up even more completely than I am, to help me take the next step, whatever the next step is. And so it feels different.
This is Joni. I will tell you, as someone who walked alongside with you in real in worldly time through that whole process. It was, I'd have to remind myself that you were going through this at that time, because what it sounded like in such a neutral, non-hysteric, calm way, as if it could have happened years ago or whenever, but what it never felt like that it affected your peace. And that example over these months, other than you waiting for the pictures of the kitchen, it has been amazing that you have never wavered from applying and seeing it in peace, and just it's unfolded the way it's going to unfold, and you never lost your peace. I'm amazed. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. And well, now I won't say I never lost my peace, but I never lost my peace more than momentarily.
All right, that's
Yeah, because the ego still talks, you know. But I had during this process, I had one time when I wanted to get I wanted to get a small loan from the SBA. It's a really great way to get a loan because it's like 1.1% interest, and I wasn't sure my insurance was going to cover everything. So I wanted to get this loan, and I was having trouble getting the information I needed. And I needed my contractor to tell me how much he was going to charge me. And then I needed the insurance company to give me the final thing about what they were going to cover. And the SBA was in a hurry. They wanted all this information, and they said, okay, we need it by this date. And so I'd written to everybody, tried to get them moving. Everybody kept saying, sure, I'll do it for you. And they never did it. And so finally it got very close to the right date. And I was like, geez, you know, come on, guys. And so I sent a letter to I sent an email to the insurance guy, and I said, look, I know you're very busy. And I know that you have a lot of people you're working with, but you know, I've been waiting for 6 weeks. I really need this, and I need it now. And then I sent a text to my contractor and told him basically the same thing. And then I realized, oh, I don't like the way I feel. You know, I felt contracted. I felt unhappy. And I wasn't at peace. And so I said, okay, Holy Spirit, you know, obviously I've gotten off on the wrong track here. Help me to see this differently. And just within moments, it was fine. It was just gone. And I sent a letter I sent an email to my insurance guy, and I said, hey, look, don't worry about what I said. Just take your time. Do what you can do. I appreciate all the help you've given me. I was just getting stressed by the situation, and it's over. I'm good. And I said basically the same thing to the other guy. Well, now, as far as I was concerned, that was over. You know, I mean, I felt fine. And they did get it to me as quickly as they could. It came in, and I talked to the SB, and I said, hey, look, they're going to get it to me when they can. I can't make it go any faster. And she said, well, that's okay. She said, I'll just put it here on the shelf, and I'll just let it sit there. Because really what they're supposed to do, if you don't give the information in time, they put you back in and they start you over. But she said, I'll just put it on the shelf, and you get it to me as quick as you can. And then after that, with the insurance guy, I think he had already told me what he was going to cover and what he wasn't. But he actually covered everything. And I think that, I mean, that was not why I did it the way that I did it. I wanted peace of mind. But when you give love and you care about other people, well, that's what comes back. That's just the way that it works. And so that in my contractor, he's been a doll. It's like he'll see little things around my house that need fixing, and he'll fix them. He doesn't charge me. I told him, I said, look, when you see this kind of stuff and you fix it, I said, just add it to the bill. And he says, that's fine. You know, and he just keeps doing it. So it's like what Jesus says is true. What we give is what we receive. Anyway, so that would be an example of when I had some stress that came into my mind, but the whole thing was solved in like 15 minutes, I guess, you know, counting the the messages, and it was it doesn't stick the way that it used to.
Well, and I'm going to say that I noticed that after you pushed the buttons and thought the thought, wrote the text, pushed the button, it was a very short time from there to you noticing how you felt and asking for help to see it different. And then that resulted in new connections, new letters, new emails.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, because it used to take a long time for me to get to that place.
Myron, what is your idea of enlightenment? Has the course brought you closer to enlightenment? And if so, how? Is that what you're describing? Or is there a difference to you between awakening and enlightenment, or are they the same?
Well, everybody has definitions of these words, and Jesus says, words, right? they're just symbols of symbols, and that's twice removed from reality. So I guess it helps to be able to know what I'm talking about. And so what the term I couldn't think of before is fundamental well-being, which I like that term because that's what it feels like. Fundamentally, I feel good. Everything is fine. I don't really have any problems. So fundamental well-being is really a good way to describe it. Some people think, now I think of it as like just being on that spectrum of awakening, because we don't typically just wake up. We move gently toward waking up, and it just gets clear. Our mind gets clearer and clearer and clearer until we reach some place, and maybe we would call that enlightenment. I'm not there. Sorry, let me get a drink of water. I can't really talk intelligently about anything I haven't experienced, but I have read about people who've gone further than I have, and I know people who've gone further than I have. Kate Grease woke up through A Course in Miracles. That's the only thing she ever did was A Course in Miracles. And she woke up through that, and she's been awake for like 5 or 6 years now. And I watch her and I see how much she has changed. And I especially like following her. Her stuff is very enlightened, what she posts. And I like it because she did it through A Course in Miracles. So that was very encouraging to me when I was still moving in that direction. Plus, just to see how she progressed, how she got deeper, and her awakening got deeper and deeper and deeper as the years went on. And that's very encouraging for me. I like to think that will happen for me as well. And I'm sure it will. And then I've read about people who've gone even much higher, into where they've had what some people call cosmic consciousness of what what the Course says, that we are all connected and that we're all part of each other, and they experience that. That is their experience, that they are one with everything. And I like reading about things like that because I would like to have that experience. I'd like to have that soon. Hey, today would be good. So I know that can happen. It just isn't my experience yet. And so awakening and enlightenment, I don't know. I kind of think about, I heard someone say it this way one time: to awaken in the world and to awaken from the world. And so awakening in the world would be kind of like what I'm doing. Like I'm awake to the fact that this is not reality. I never lose touch with that. I know that. And so I've awakened to that. And that makes a big difference. Doesn't mean that I don't act like it sometimes, that the world is real. Like if one of my children gets sick or something, for a moment, I'm like, oh, and then it starts to fade. And then I remember it's okay, that this is their path and they're fine. They're safe. Only their bodies, only these characters that they're playing have a problem. They're fine. And then I'm okay with it. But awakening from the world, I think of, is just my way of looking at it. Like this is like Jesus and other masters who have awakened to the point that they're no longer with us, but they're still helping us. It's a constant thing. We're constantly being helped. Jesus says that somewhere in the Course, he talks about this. I can't remember the exact words, but that we have a lot of help. He says that, and ultimately it's all one. But while we need these images, then we see them as Jesus, as Buddha, as a saint, or, you know, angels or whatever. Ultimately, there is just one, but for now, we experience him in different ways. So, but everyone who's ever awakened is helping us to awaken. This is a serious business here, getting everybody awake. So,
Myron, you just talked about a woman named Kate. Can you repeat her last name?
Greaves, Grieves, or something similar to that. Greaves.
Okay, like Kate Greaves. Kate Greaves.
Cate. Cate.
Okay, all right. That was just one of the comments in our chat. And there's a few other chats that are going on. And I just find one of the things about the chats for me is when I'm listening to someone, it's hard for me to be talking on the chat. So there have been a few comments, like Lynn mentioned that when she broke her shoulder a few years ago, that she experienced that complete peace that she, we are down to the last few minutes. I just want to, I don't know if we should ask our final question, which was kind of fun, or go to our song, or read from the chat, or open it up to other people. This is where I just have to turn it over. We have to turn it over to Holy Spirit. I guess one thing is does somebody have a burning question or a comment or something that they wrote in the chat that we're not going to be able to read? So can we open it up to everybody and just for a few minutes, see if somebody has a question or a comment?
Well, that one of the questions I'm still curious about is what keeps you light and having fun with the Course? And or do you just, since this happens all day for you, is everything that way? Is that the big shift?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that. I love what I do. I love every minute of it. I love every call I take. I love every course I give. I love every Course in Miracles group I have. And there's very little else in my life. In fact, my daughter insisted on an appointment in my calendar. I put her name and go visit with her and my granddaughter, because I was so focused on what I do with the Course that I wasn't giving my attention to my family. And that's just as important. I mean, our lives here are important. They're important for us because it's where we do all our work, and it's where we love. So one of the places we love, because I love everybody I work with, but so I started spending more time with my family. But when it comes to the Course, it's what I love, and what I love is what I enjoy.
I heard it said recently that everything in the Course teaches us that everything is relationships.
It is. It's true. And I think he says what? You're in relationship to the pen. Your hand is in relationship to your pencil. Meaning, like, everything is relationship. Yeah.
We're in relationship with our ego thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And our
Okay, if Lynn will make me host, can you tell me about this song that you love so much? It's called "If You Knew How Much I Love You," and how
before we go to the song, I just want to re-say that if you'd like to get in touch with Myron Jones, that her website is forgivenessisthewayhome.org. Forgivenessisthewayhome.org. Or you can reach her at Myron Jones at hotmail.com.
No. Rev Myron.
Rev Myron at hotmail.com. revmyron@hotmail.com. And we're probably going to be taking this out to the end. So I just want to thank you so much, Myron, for taking this time to talk. This whole talk has been recorded, so we can find this, you can find this, we can all find this on YouTube as soon as we edit it and put it out into the net sphere. And let's see, anything else, Joni?
No, I think this is a lovely way to end. And thank you very much, Reverend Myron and Lynn and all the guests here. And thank you, Mary. I mean, thanks for being my partner. It's almost like we know each other.
Can you tell us the name of the YouTube channel?
Oh, good question. The name of the YouTube YouTube.
ACIM Gather for A Course in Miracles.
And then we'll, if you sign up at any of the Facebook pages, if you look up Myron, she'll have a copy. And then we'll also give you access to ACIM Gathers, which is hosting this Pal Talk ACI Gathers radio.
Yeah, somebody asked if this was a regular program, and yes, every Wednesday we do meet. The name of our program is MerJ with Joni and Mary, and what we do is we talk about how to merge with the divine, basically, is what we're looking at the deep level. But we do that by reading through the text, talking about it, and interviewing people who have been studying the course.
Thank you all so much for having me. I sure appreciate it.
So welcome.
And thanks for recording it, because I had several people who asked me if you were going to record it because they couldn't be here. So thanks.
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. We've said thank you so much, and I love it. Can't say it enough. Lynn, I'm going to turn the mic back over to you. And thank you, Mary. Thank you, Myron. Thank you, everyone who showed. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate
it.
Thank you, Myron, for coming to join us on ACIM Gather for A Course in Miracles. And this will be on YouTube. Remember that we are here 24/7. You can come to our website, acimgather.us, or us, ACIM Gather Us, and hear live teachings all morning and recordings 24/7. Please join us on ACIM Gather. Thank you, Mary and Joni. They're here every Wednesday at this time. So it's wonderful to have you guys. And over a year you've been with us. So grateful.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Joni. Thank you, Myron. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you. Love you. Please have a great day. Just know that we're praying for you.
Thank you. Love you guys.